Welcome everyone to this edition of Inside Working Wardrobes. I'm Jerry Rosen, and in this edition, we're going to shine a spotlight on the she-cession, our continuing focus on how we can get more women back into the workforce, and how our women's giving collective, Smart Women, is actually going to help us do just that. Joining me today, I have three outstanding women. First, our board liaison to Smart Women, Sonia Stroza. Sonia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And I have two unbelievably active and dedicated women who have been on our Smart Women Advisory Council for years. Jen Lundy, welcome.
Thank you.
And Shaheen Hussain, a big welcome to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to dive right in because we've got a lot to talk about. So I'm going to direct this to Jen and Shaheen. You've been a part of the Smart Women Giving Collective and on the Advisory Council. Tell us why, what moved your heart to be putting time and energy and money into the work that we're doing. Jen, if you could would you start us?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me, and part of why I love working wardrobes in general, but certainly partnering specifically with Smart Women, is how we really empower women or anyone that we're serving as a client of working wardrobes. For me, I think it is so important not to just give a handout, certainly help those that are in need, but to really empower and equip them to be more successful and to really take what we equip them with and really run with it to thrive and really grow and be truly successful contributing individuals in our community. And I just love the way that we do that as part of Smart Women.
Thank you so much, Jen. Okay, Shaheen, give us your perspective on membership, dedication, investment. What moves your heart?
Well, I have to tell you, you're my favorite redhead, and I've told you that. I followed you and your work for decades, and I've donated clothes, but only, I'd say 5 years ago, I felt the need to do more and to be asked to join Smart Women Council. I feel like by joining it, I'm actually making a bigger difference and having an impact. So it's a pure joy to be part of it.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about the she-cession, because Working Wardrobes has really taken a leadership position in this issue that is truly shining a light on the challenges that millions of women are facing across our country as a result of COVID. And I know that this is a topic, Sonia, that really speaks to your heart. You are a working mom, and I know you've had challenges and you've got some issues that everyone has faced. Why do you think this issue became so important, and why do you think it's important for Working Wardrobes to really focus on this as a challenge for women?
Well, I find it interesting that this situation actually brings Working Wardrobes back to its roots when you started the organization 31 years ago in trying to help women. So it's unfortunate that COVID has really exacerbated the situation of women and some of the added difficulties that they face in the workforce. It's such an important topic, and COVID has been so difficult for working moms in particular, and also for moms that may need to care for families. I think it's fantastic that Working Wardrobes and Smart Women in particular are having this conversation. We know it exists, but I don't know that there are a lot of organizations that are trying to make it better or do something about it like Working Wardrobes is. So it's a big part of helping women and helping them, unfortunately, win back some of the strides they have over the past few decades that COVID has really caused some steps back.
And we are actually back to the numbers of women in the workforce in the 1980s. So Sonia, you're absolutely right about that. So Jen and Shaheen, we're going to do some programming around this. We can't just yet meet in our live events, even though we'd love to do that. So I think the next best thing is for us to gather as a community and talk about these issues. And so I would like to talk a little bit about this Zoom workshop series that's coming up in July, August, and September. And we're calling this the COVID consequences. And consequences don't always have to be negative. We're also going to think about what are the positive sides of the COVID pandemic, because there are upsides. So let's talk a little bit about these 3 workshops. So the first one coming up is an interview that I'm going to have with Sarah Lacey, who's the CEO of Chairman Mom. And just if anyone has a thought about that, Chairman Mom is really this online community for moms of every amazing amount of resources. And Sarah herself is an investigative journalist. She has an absolute passion for helping women of, of all ilk. It doesn't matter whether they're low income or high net worth women. Women face some challenges. So does someone want to speak to the issues that women at all levels face in this pandemic and why Chairman Mom is actually a great launch to our workshop series? Sonia, you did some investigating into her website, I'm sure, right?
I did a little bit. And I'm glad you brought up the point, an investigative reporter or had been in her prior life. So I think that she's really doing research and getting to the facts, and had done so, and in her career came to the conclusion that this was something that women needed. And I do agree. It's women across the entire spectrum of employment, whether you're at an entry-level position or you're a very senior woman. We all face the same issues, particularly in being a mom or running a household, or even being a wife to that extent. So having a network, somewhere you can go, a trusted source where you can ask candid questions and get feedback from other women that are experiencing the same thing, I think is an amazing idea. And it'll be a really interesting conversation, hearing the tidbits that she's gathered and why she put this together and how it works.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a rich conversation. She's a wonderful, wonderful, almost eccentric character. I loved having my initial conversation with her. And so for our second workshop, so Jen, you're in the corporate world. The second workshop really speaks to companies that have really shown their compassionate side to employees during the pandemic. And I was just blown away by some of the benefits that companies said, we must offer these kinds of opportunities, and really thinking about the mental health, the physical health of their employees. So from your point of view, Jen, in the corporate world, why do you think this is an important topic for us to cover?
Right. Well, I think it's a perfect segue, because I think something that I've just personally witnessed front and center throughout this pandemic, and we've kind of been alluding to this, women take on so much responsibility, not only in their professional careers, so whatever that may look like, whether they're early on or very senior level in an executive or running an organization. We take on that responsibility, and then we go home, we're wives, we're spouses, we're moms, we're daughters, we're taking care of maybe our parents as well as children at this point. And the level of responsibility and relentlessness, and I think this is the other thing too, is there's much less separation. There's no longer, or much less, I should say, going into an office, getting to go out and meet with clients, or going to networking events. There's been so much that's forced us to just stay home and stay in this one environment where it's just constant overwhelm with very little relief. And the reality is women pick up that burden. And so from a corporate perspective, organizations who can understand that this is a very real challenge. I mean, I have such sympathy when I think of the women who are working from home, who had young children they were trying to homeschool while dealing with the emotional effects of a global pandemic. I mean, it's really insurmountable when you think about it. So corporate initiatives to create more flexibility, to create more understanding of the workload, both personal and professional, and how that is impacting most people, but in particular women, is so critical to retain those women in the workforce. Because as we've all been talking about, we have seen a huge chunk of women have to step away because it's just truly too much to manage. So the more organizations that can create opportunity for women to effectively balance their personal lives and personal responsibilities and still allow them to contribute and thrive in their organization and from a professional manner, I think that is so critical, because I believe that truly diverse and equal representation, whether we're talking about women and men or just different backgrounds and cultures, that is so important to drive people forward, to drive organizations forward, to have balance and perspectives and empathy and progress. It's so critical. So it's encouraging, because I will say I've seen a lot of my personal clients, the company that I work for, and just what I'm seeing in terms of trends, a lot more organizations are creating more long-term, sustainable, flexible options, which is very encouraging to see, because it's necessary to get some of these women back into the workforce.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to wrap up the third session. Shaheen, this one I think speaks to you as well, because it's about research and the reality of what has happened. And I talked to two PhDs, very, very, very smart women, both PhDs in their own fields, and yet they spoke not just about their research, but the reality of what they faced. You're a wife, a mother, and all of a sudden during the pandemic, you had a couple people move back home. How did you experience the pandemic, and how did that affect your whole life?
Well, actually, it's a blessing, because these are older children, and we are, again, a nuclear family, but it's a different dynamic. So in a way, it's a blessing. But I want to speak on the more global level, which is that in this pandemic, it's been unique because childcare centers closed. And women had to make the choice of either taking care of their children or continuing with their careers. And that has actually, based on research, placed millions of women maybe permanently behind in their careers. And this sort of effect of the pandemic has never been felt before. So this she-cession is huge and impacting a huge swath of women specifically who had to choose between childcare and their career. So I was fortunate that I could work from my home and have grown children. But if you think about all the women who are early in their career or mid-career, and they have to make that choice, it's heartbreaking. So this is a great topic that we're addressing through the Smart Women. Absolutely applaud that.
And what I hear you all say, and what I absolutely believe to be true, is this is not a quick fix. I think most importantly, we're shining a light on this, but these are issues that we're going to need to wrestle with and address and talk about and work on probably for the next decade or more. I mean, we've lost so much traction right now, but I do think at least we can say to our community at large, we've got 3 outstanding workshops coming to you this July, August, and September. And we have 3 incredible fans of these workshops in Sonia and Jen and Shaheen. So I want to ask each of you, we have a chance to say to our audience, why tune in to these workshops? So we've got a little bit of Zoom burnout, but why tune into these? Sonia, why do you think you want to make sure that everybody you know tunes into our workshops?
Well, I'm a big believer in constantly learning. And this is one of those topics that maybe you don't want to study per se, but if you walk away with one tidbit of learning where you have become more knowledgeable, sympathetic, empathetic to these conditions that exist now because of COVID, or just in women's everyday lives in being primary caretakers and career women, I think it's really important just to be a well-rounded person and understand what's going on in your community in particular, whether you're a man or a woman. I always think you should constantly be learning. And this topic in particular, given what we've just gone through, is something, again, that will be with us for a very long time. So it's an opportunity to learn, possibly change your perspective, expand your perspective, and do something to make a difference.
Jen, what's your thought on why everybody you know across the country should be tuning in to these 3 workshops?
Yes, I definitely agree with what Sonia just shared. I very much have the same mindset. I think we should constantly be learning. So I think being able to be exposed to the realities of what's happening in the world right now, I think is the first step in, awareness, so to speak, and being able to contribute and have productive conversations around this. So not just in the workshop and learning and, you know, maybe some reflection that comes after that, but what can we then do with that information? How can we start to, you know, bring up these conversations in other communities, within our families, within our organizations, those of us that are actively working? You know, I think taking action is really important. You know, once you've learned something, you've reflected on how that impacts you, let's then integrate it. And so that's what I would love to see, is have people join in these conversations, but then do something with it afterwards to actually affect change.
So I love that thought, because every one of these sessions is going to have some upsides and some takeaways. And Shaheen, I know you have this absolute desire to make sure that people go into action and do something. And we need to say that these workshops are free, by the way. So we do want everybody that you know tuning in. Why do you want your community making tracks to join us for all three of these workshops, Shaheen?
Well, I have to reflect what Sonia and Jennifer have said, which is, first, we have to inform our community about this very real crisis that we're having. And once you inform, then give people a roadmap on how to potentially take care of it and help the people who are being affected. So first educate, inform, and then give a roadmap for how to address it and maybe change the inflection point. So absolutely have to go and learn.
Exactly. And so I think we've taken a giant step in that regard, because we're putting these workshops on. They are free to the general public, and we want everyone to tune in. We also want people to become a member of our Smart Women Giving Collective. And we've made that so simple, right? It's just $100 a month. And what you get to do is invest in the life and the opportunity for a woman to change her life. So the money that each of our members, each of you have invested, is actually life-changing and scholarships a woman through our program. And we'll spend a little time at the end of our workshops talking about the women's scholarships, because in particular, we want to put money into scholarships for women so that they get the training that will change their lives and give them a path to a career where they can live with dignity. We think that's so, so important. But each of you have invested in the clients that are served by Working Wardrobes with your own membership. So Shaheen, if I can ask you, you are a wise investor. Why did you put some of your very hard-earned money into your membership as a smart woman?
I think we've all experienced the power of a paycheck or the power of not having a paycheck. We've all been there in some form. And it just speaks to me. And if I can help others achieve the power of a paycheck, I mean, how great is that? And being part of this collective, I feel like I'm actually having an impact that I can see. So it's very tangible and very beneficial, and I feel the good vibes. So it's all good. It's all goodness.
I love it. So Jen, when you hear a client speak at one of our Smart Women events, and you realize that the money that you have invested has actually helped create someone's path to success, what does that do for you? You're a young, vibrant businesswoman. We're all ages and all stages in Smart Women. What does that do for you?
It's incredible. I think it speaks to what I was just saying. It's first, you know, learning, being aware, and then taking action. And so the ability to see those actions pay off and to just hear the emotion, I think truly that's one of my favorite things, you know, about our live events. I love the inspirational stories and the speakers, but getting to hear from the clients whose lives have been completely turned around, and their ability to now not only care for themselves, care for their families, but then begin to give back and build. That has a ripple effect. It's so much bigger than just the one client that we're helping. And that's what it's all about. I think that's truly, we all have different strengths and gifts and abilities to be able to contribute and give back to our communities, and just seeing that compound from just these little glimpses that we get. There's so much more that we don't see that is happening as a result of helping these clients. And It's so heartwarming. It's encouraging. That's how we make the world a better place. It starts with one person at a time.
Absolutely. And Sonia, you are our liaison to our board of directors. You have truly a fiduciary responsibility to help the organization grow and thrive. And one of the ways we do that is to invite women or men to join Smart Women. Why do you think this is an important way for people to invest in the mission of Working Wardrobes?
Well, I appreciate the fact that you said that I'm involved at Working Wardrobes on a broader level, which is what initially attracted me to the organization, is the mission of the organization. And of course, I love you, Jerry. So that was a big part of it too. But with Smart Women in particular, you can focus your efforts. If your passion is in helping women, this is a way for you to further Working Wardrobes' mission, but in particular with women. So it's just another way of expanding Working Wardrobe's mission, but then specifically targeting, particularly given what's happened in COVID, helping women specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that these workshops, I think, are going to be incredibly informative and also interesting and entertaining. I've had a chance to do a pre-screen interview with each. I can tell you they are all primed and ready to go. They've got great stories for us. So we're going to have at least one big thing happening July, August, and September. But let's also look towards the end of the year. We're going to go live. We're actually going to be back together again live. And I'll have a chance to interview a really fascinating man, Noberto Santana, who is the publisher of Voice of OC. So particularly for our advisory council members, Jen and Shaheen, when we have a chance to be live again, maybe you get to do a little shopping, and maybe you'll get to do a little wine tasting and some appetizers, actually deliver the hugs that we all have missed for many moons. What do you think is the reason why you want more people to come out in November for our big live event and wrap up of the year? And Jen, if you could start us off.
Absolutely. I think the opportunity, all events are great. These virtual events that we have coming up will be fantastic, but the ability to be in the same room and to really connect and feel that energy and the good vibes that Shaheen was speaking about, I think there's no match for that. And especially hearing the speakers and the incredible people that we have come to these events, you feel it. You get energized, you know without a doubt that you're part of that and that you're making an impact. And it's just, it fills you up. It absolutely fills you up. So I hope to see as many people as possible at our live event.
Fantastic. And Shaheen, wrap us up today and tell us why we want to just be together as tightly connected as we can come November for our live event.
Well, first of all, we love each other. So it'll be good to give hugs. And the speaker is amazing because I have seen him and he'll be great. And we can actually start moving the needle and do our mission, get back on track.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs to be there.
Absolutely. So I am so excited to have a chance to talk to all of you. I want everyone to join us for our COVID Consequences series coming up in July, August, and September. Everything will be on the website. You can sign up. These are free. And then absolutely join Sonia and Jen and Shaheen and me and all of our Smart Women members and prospects in November as we have a chance to really go live with Smart Women. Thank you each for joining me today. It has been a kick to be with you. You are brilliant, you are fun, you are engaged and dedicated, and you just give my heart so much joy. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with me today.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in to this edition of Inside Working Wardrobes. We'll see you again very soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.